Hi, I'd like to present you my newest tool which lets you create such a slime mesh, for example, or these tendons on a zombie-like character. But first let's start off by setting the assets library. So here we have to find our directory where we keep our asset. So let's create folder for it. Let's name it Sculpt Bridge Tool. And all we need is a path to it, so let's copy it, and that's pretty much it. You don't select the file itself but only the directory. So now it should appear once you go into the Sculpt node over here, but it sometimes takes Blender a moment to catch up, so let's just revert the file and we start over, and once again I go in here and you can see unassigned tools here. I recommend putting them into the quick favorites tab so they are easily accessible. So now let's take a look at the features of this tool. We'll create something similar to this. So we'll start with those two walls, and in the Sculpt mode we'll be using the draw face sets brush. Like this, and how it works, it will create a bridge between two last painted face sets. So we paint those, and here once you click on the bridge tool, you have the bridge, and here are the controls of it. The squeeze setting, and next up is the gravity. We'll look closer into that in a moment. Then there is the density of the bridge, and then there is the smoothness of the connection between the mesh and the bridge, and then there is the smooth distance, and next up is the smooth facets. This one is pretty interesting. It forces the system to recalculate the bridge, and it is sometimes helpful with fixing some issues, which we'll see in a moment. And then there is the flip bridge, which is also sometimes useful for fixing some issues. And then there's the flip normals, which will also be sometimes useful, but it is generally used by the punch hole, where it is by default set to on. And the symmetry settings we'll look in a second. But now let's take a look at the gravity. Here you can set the vector of it to whatever might be needed. And now, before moving on to the symmetry settings, let's just play for a moment with this tool. You'll see it's very fast, it's very pleasant to work with. I would especially like to show you the use case of the smooth facets, because it is useful in cases like that when you want to create a gap in the mesh. And here you can see that once I change this value, the system is looking for the optimal way to bridge it, and that might sometimes be very helpful. So yeah, here you can see how it works, and in the next chapter of this video we'll take a look at the symmetry settings and how we can set the default values of the functions of this tool. So yeah, let's now go back to the monster sculpt, and we'll be working with the symmetry now. And to make it more convenient, we'll change the default value of symmetry in the tool. So to do that, let's open the geometry nodes editor window, and here let's change the context to tool. And after using it, you will find bridge tool and punch hole in here, and we just need to find the symmetry setting and change the setting to be on by default. And let's do the same for the punch hole, not this one, the symmetry. And you can change in the same manner any of those settings in here. So yeah, now that we are ready, let's go back to the sculpting and let's see how it works in action. So we'll be painting those two islands like this with the symmetry turned on, and you can see it appear on the other side. This face set draw brush does turn off the symmetry from time to time. I don't know why is that. It might be something to do with Blender on the Blender side. but yeah, this is how it works in Symmetry. And here once again you'll see the use case of this face set smooth option. Yeah, when the system gets a little bit lost, yeah, it usually helps. So yeah, let's create one more bridge. Once again, the symmetry. Yeah, and that's how it looks. One more thing I would like to show you is that using symmetry needs to have a exactly symmetrical mesh. So there, when it's not the case, then some kind of bugs might appear. And let's say in that case, I just did a remesh with the symmetry turned off, and for now it works fine, but let's do it the second time, and let's create another bridge. And yeah, let's look closely. It's mostly works fine, but when you look up very close, okay, one polygon didn't catch up, and that's because it's not exactly symmetrical. But then there is this cool feature here in Blender, and the symmetry tab, where you can symmetrize the mesh. So yeah, now it's perfectly symmetrical and everything works as it should. So that's it when we are using the x-axis. And at the end of this video, let's take a last look. What if we were to use the other axis for the symmetry? So let's use the z-axis. And like before, let's use the symmetrize operator for the mesh to be perfectly symmetrical. And now, don't be scared by this. We just need to select the correct axis. There in description you can see that the number 3 is for the z-axis. So now let's do the same for the y-axis symmetry. Let's also use the symmetrize operator. And once you pick correct axis, this is the result. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Here's last look at the demo sculpt I did for this tool. I used it for those hang tendons here, and for the saliva on teeth, for the body itself also. Yeah, it's really fun to use and it's free. So go grab it on Gumroad or on Blender Market and have fun. Thanks.